Welcome to the third episode in our special Design for Advantage podcast series with Rafael. In previous episodes, we looked at long-range precision strike and the rise of directed energy systems. Today, we're turning to the maritime domain and asking how navies can defend their fleets in an era of bold, asymmetric threats. From Red Sea drone swarms to precision missile attacks in the Black Sea, maritime security is being redefined in real time. I'm joined by Gideon Weiss, Rafael's VP of Business Development and Marketing, and Commander K, a naval surface warfare and air defence expert, active reserve naval officer, and business development manager at Rafael. Gentlemen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
So in this episode, we're going to explore how naval air defence and counter-UAS technologies are evolving to protect naval task groups, safeguard shipping routes, and keep the upper hand in contested waters. I guess, first of all, Gideon, let's kind of set the stage a little bit. What's changing in the maritime threat landscape today? And then what are the wider implications for naval air defence?
All right, Tony, it's great to be with you again. Before we set the stage, I think it's important to mention that where we come from in Rafael is the fact that from its inception, Rafael has developed and manufactured naval systems based on multi-mission and multi-service requirements. And not many remember that this includes surface missiles, such as the Gabriel missile. It started in Rafael, electronic warfare, countermeasures, and Rafael was the first to have a naval air defense system, which was the Barak 1. Then we were the first ones to have the remote control stabilized gun mount for naval systems, which is the Typhoon. And naturally, when we had Iron Dome, it became Sea Dome. When we had Spike missiles, they became Naval Spike. The Icebreaker, long-range precision strike, then became Icebreaker, became Seabreaker. And everything that we have in counter-UAS capabilities and applications has become naval, including the very important naval iron beam, the laser system. So when we look at all of these capabilities, this is why we are organized in Rafael with a specialized directorate that has all of these capabilities from the big Rafael portfolio specialized to the maritime environment. And when we look at the general stage, you mentioned the Red Sea, Ukraine, South China Sea, and all of the Pacific conflicts with the Philippines and Japanese navies. Clearly, everything that we see on land, everything that is applicable to hostilities being applied against naval forces is exactly what we see on land, except they do it anyways. And not always it's precision strike, not always it's effective, but it's making these naval routes very risky. It's making these missions very dangerous now. And we see that affecting both the civilian side as well as the military side. So when we talk about blue water missions, when we talk about littoral shipping, when we talk about beaching operations, it's the classic military missions that are at risk, but also the normal shipping. If you want to send something now through the Red Sea and go through the Suez Canal, it's very dangerous. So people go around Africa. And this is a kind of a asymmetrical warfare that we all need to face and apply protections against.
And then Commander K, from an operational standpoint, how are navies responding to those types of threats?
So, Tony, let's start from operational point of view. We see long missions. We see expeditionary forces deployment in growing numbers. Every day on such deployment can be an intense combat day, and there could be several of those in a row. We just can take a look on Operation Prosperity Guardian, that is a US-led coalition and anti-Houthi effort, during which the coalition ships faced more than 450 air threats and firing more than 220 interceptors. That's unprecedented. So we can also take a snapshot to USS Bruins that had a really long day fighting off 7 UAVs, 3 cruise missiles, and 3 ballistic missiles, all in just under 10 hours. So that's from operational point of view. And the system design-wise, what you really want on board your ship is seamless integration of sensors and effectors working under massive target load. You want air defense as a foundation or as a backbone in design. And you want affordability in the interception means. And that, I think, brings us to a serious question of how do we handle ammunition management during engagement, shooting only the imminent threats and only with the right interceptors. If you like, it's the economics of naval warfare. So the whole mission endurance of those fleets or those task force is built on exactly that. So we're looking at automation or at least decision-making support during engagement. We're looking at radar agnostic abilities, many versus many, and a system that can potentially be scalable with modular payloads, adding to its endurance, winning the battle.
So as we know, it is a complex environment with the potential for swarm drones, sea skimming missiles, I guess saturation attacks. Well, I guess my question is, what are the defensive capabilities that are proving most effective today?
Sure. So, when we were looking first at drones and swarms attacks and that kind of threat, it wasn't just the airborne threats. It was also the surface unmanned vehicles that emerged as one of the threats that needed to be handled. So navies wanted to use, they always been and they always will, try to use every asset they already have to make the best out of instead of just buying more and more equipment. So the one thing that some of the navies had, and the most important one, was the U.S. Navy, which if you pay attention to, all of the U.S. Navy ships have a Typhoon remote control stabilized gun mount, which is called the Mark 38. Every ship has that, and they used it first to protect themselves against incoming ships or very small dinghies that could potentially harm the big ships. But then when you have a swarm, you want to be able to move from one to another and be able to counter them very quickly. But then what happens if you have a swarm with UAVs or drones trying to attack the ship? So the first time that we dealt with this requirement was almost 10 years ago, dealing with the U.S. Navy, and we added very quickly, using the same gun mount, using the same equipment that we have, just changing a little bit of the software, just changing a little bit of the ballistics and calculation, solution calculation of shooting, a counter UAV and counter UAS capability with the same Mark 38 gun mount. This is a great example of doing that. And of course, when we talk about lasers, now that lasers are becoming operational on land, clearly navies will be looking at how to apply them over water and to do the same with lasers to be more effective and drive less ammunition. As Commander K said, if you need to have a very big loadout, it will better be not too expensive, and you better have the ability to have a big loadout and the ability to reload as necessary.
Hey, Tony, so you asked about the environment that is swarming in drones, and we talked earlier about marine vessels or all kind of vessels that the fleets all around the world are deploying. So I think it is very important to prepare all kind of vessels to protect themselves, not only the corvettes and the frigates that are operating. So we at Rafael, we talked about endurance that a concept like mission model can provide. And not less important is the possibility to protect a marine platform that wasn't built to carry air defense just by deploying a mission model on deck or on the helipad. We have under this concept a variety of solutions, from Typhoon 30, counter-UAS mission model, to full-scale Sea Dome, naval version of the Iron Dome, that will protect any vessel once deployed. So the effectiveness, if you ask, what is the effectiveness of such solutions? So I would say, again, scalable, deployable, and affordable.
And Tony, there's a great anecdote here that Commander K has mentioned. I want to elaborate a little bit about. In the history of applying the Iron Dome to the Israeli Navy, its first application was actually to take the ground launcher, the very familiar ground launcher, and just strap it down to the back of the corvette and use that with the integration to the naval radar and command and control system without any specific integration to the deck or below deck. just as it is. So adding a mission module could be a very interesting thing for a quick reaction, for a quick solution before anyone has a very tight integration into the deck itself on any ship.
That's great. And then Gideon, you mentioned previously the role of lasers. We had a fascinating conversation in episode 1 about the development of lasers and high energy systems. Could you maybe go into a little bit more detail about where such systems kind of fit into the naval picture?
Sure. I think that there is clearly there's a great advantage, but people who think about what lasers can do on the surface naval warfare, it is a little different from the land, in the sense that when you talk about the laser integration on a ship, it's going to be on the ship itself. It's first and foremost going to help protect that ship, but that ship with a good laser on it could have a nice footprint that would be able to protect assets around it and even other ships in its vicinity. So the first thing about lasers application at sea would be the ability to remove the necessity to shoot interceptors. The one thing that is the biggest pain for naval warfare in air defense is the loadout of interceptors. A, they're limited in numbers, and B, they cost a lot of money. Whereas a laser shot is a few dollars. It's just the energy and maybe a little bit of maintenance, but it's a few dollars. So essentially, you can think about a laser system on the deck of a ship as almost an endless magazine that you can continuously shoot down drones and UAVs and even rockets and ballistic missiles to the extent of what the capability of the laser itself, and not worry about your loadout or running out of ammunition. But having said that, there are so many types of threats, just the ability of shooting down a drone or a UAV, you really don't want to spend an interceptor on a drone or a UAV. It's just too expensive. And if you have a laser, you can absolutely do that very quickly and very effectively, and it will cost very little. So the effectiveness of lasers in the naval warfare could actually be a very good leap in effectiveness and cost effectiveness.
And just a reminder that listeners can go back to episode 1 of this series for a deeper dive into the development of high energy laser technology and how it is actually moving from concept to operational reality. And then just to keep us moving along, Commander K, it's always good when we're talking about such concepts to sort of think about real world examples. Can you give us any real world examples of how naval platforms are adapting to things like drone swarms and asymmetric threats?
So I think we are learning from active deployments, and there are many of them these days all around the globe. We're good listeners, I think, and we try to implement new technologies and constantly upgrade and evolve on that. Those upgraded systems, just as Gideon mentioned, are now in production ready for global partners. And we are now in a massive program upgrading counter-UAS capabilities across a very large fleet, providing that additional and affordable layer of defense based on the Typhoon. And there are more customers that have similar projects. This is a part of Rafael path that began several years ago to come up with a solution to provide a sustainable and layered defense against aerial threats. Another example is here home in the Israeli Navy. While still in service, I had the chance and satisfaction to lead with a wonderful team that we had, and development of the Sea Dome that initially was trapped on a helipad, just like Gideon said. And that development process was done on board real time. So that led us to where we are today. It's an operational Sea Dome system intercepting dozens of UAV. Effectively, you can say even naturally now, real achievement from our perspective. And those real world feedbacks from recent upgrades for NATO users and IDF users, and also in the US, I think they're all combined together into a know-how that we implement into our new products that we strive to implement all the time.
Maybe one more thing to tap on this with Commander K. I think it has been advertised by the IDF that dozens of drones were shot down during the conflict, the 12-day conflict with Iran, by the Iron Dome and by the Sea Dome system. And that is phenomenal capability that when you think about a swarm attack and an ongoing attack, the fact that these systems were able to shoot down these drones is just phenomenal, and it's a testament of the maturity and the effectiveness of these systems.
And then I guess, naval air defense is a crowded field. I guess I'd like to ask what is different about Rafael's approach in terms of capability, integration, and ultimately readiness.
It's a great question, and it's always been a big dilemma on how we develop things and how we design them. You know, usually companies do their own proprietary design. We do our own stuff because it's easier and it's more comfortable to work with our own environment. But we realized very early on, from many years ago, that if we need to be a global company and be able to have partnerships and to be able to sell to international customers, we must have interoperability, and we must have the ability to have those customers be able to use whatever we provide to them as multi-service and have commonality of configuration between and across their fleets. So we don't control what customers have in terms of ship configuration or radar configuration or command and control and communications configuration. So we have to design our systems not only in an open architecture, but in a way that will enable every customer to say, hey, if that's a good system that Rafael can provide, we'll be able to integrate it into our own existing system and not throw away everything that we had because everything that Rafael provides is proprietary. It's really not the case. It's the case that we are almost completely agnostic. We just need a good enough system with communication, with a radar precision that will be able to have these systems, for example, in air defense, to integrate them into the ship. But interoperability, multi-service, and commonality across fleets is a number one consideration set that we have to be different and to be able to be flexible for multiple customers.
And I want to add one more thing. I think those interceptors we designed, they need to be in fast production. They need to be produced in high rates with a fraction of the cost that is already been in the market already. It takes me back to the battle management, to the deployment, to the endurance. And I think our readiness to part with local partners and local industry for joint production, keeping the supply lines secured. I think this is the best difference, or this is the difference in Rafael's approach. We are at Naval Warfare Directorate. I think we are masters of taking capabilities from all around and applying them also to the naval arena, and not only providing a unique solutions for the navies, those multi-service weapons as we talked about. And one of them is that I want to mention is the Spike family. That is a precision strike and standoff ranges for special forces operation or for littoral defense, up to 32 kilometers of range. And you can carry a significant number of them on a fast attack craft or turn an OPV into missile ship with vast capabilities. So the Spike missile is operational on sea, on land, and air. And those capabilities, joint capabilities, are now what navies are looking for in means of joint task forces operating together with the same ammunition, doing the same mission, and providing inter-service cover.
Tony, maybe one of the things that I think would be of great interest to customers and international customers around the world is to remember that our strategy, Rafael's strategy, is not just to sell an article, but it's to create partnerships. It's to seek for localization and to make sure that the customers and governments that buy our equipment have the sovereignty in everything that is important for them, the integration stuff, the communication, the command and control, their ability to control the code, to control the integration into their own battle management system. They don't need us to do that. We will help them to integrate that. But creating that partnership, which is sometimes with fleets, and in many cases, it is with shipyards. We want to and look for partnerships and strategic partnership with shipyards that they'll know that once they select anything from Rafael, they'll know that it will be easy, it will be smooth, and it will be fast for them to have everything that they want from us and easy to integrate it into their own system so that the end customer, their fleet, would be happy and satisfied, knowing that through the partnership, And through the knowledge transfer that we provide, they'll have their sovereignty over the system along the entire life cycle of the system.
And one more thing, Tony, from my personal perspective, is that we've also got very good at closing full loop from field experience to requirements update to engineering solution and finally back to the field. And I think that is exactly what our customers and partners are looking for.
And then, gentlemen, if defense leaders and the defense community should take anything away from today's conversation, what should they remember? Commander K, maybe we could start with you.
Sail maritime threats are growing faster, bolder. This fear factor or fear barrier that we talked about is crossed, and many non-government terrorist groups have in their possession weapons that they never had before. So we're looking to more asymmetric solutions. Navies need layered, proven defense, and they need it now. Interoperability as a doctrine is, I think, that's something to take home.
And from the industrial perspective, Commander K, I think these are very, very smart and to the point messages on the operational side that navies need to take care of. On the industrial side, I think that availability, interoperability, and the ability to work with us as partners and to create sovereignty through these relationships, I think is a unique factor to come and see us and understand what we do. These are superb defensive systems that will allow navies to continue to operate in hostile waters with a lot of uncertainty, but with a lot of safety that our systems will provide. And so there's expertise, not just systems, that we'll be able to bring to bear through these partnerships.
So that's a great note to end things on. That's all for this episode of Design for Advantage with Rafael. We've explored how naval air defense and counter-UAS systems are evolving in step with global maritime threats, and why agility, affordability, and integration are the new benchmarks. So I'd like to thank our guests, Gideon Weiss and Commander K, for sharing their insights. Gentlemen, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
In our next episode, we'll look at loitering munitions and how these systems are redefining the relationship between precision strike and battlefield flexibility. And if you missed our earlier episodes, be sure to check out episode 1 on the evolution of high-energy laser systems and episode 2 for a deep dive into long-range precision strike. Until then, thanks for listening.